Welcome back to the Irene podcast. Today we have with us Kenzie Bradshaw Betancur, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about how DV affects children and in the home and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. I'll let you just take it away from here because I wanted you to talk about what you wanted to talk about, so let's go.
Yeah. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker here in town. I'm a certified DV provider here in the state of Utah, and I've been doing mental health, and for the past, I graduated with my master's in 2023, but you start doing therapy before that. Anyways, yeah. And I guess I haven't really told you guys about this, but what led into this, are a couple of things, but one of the first things is I was a victim advocate at the Children's Justice Center. I don't know if you know what that is.
Is it where like kids who have been in abuse have their own attorneys and stuff and they go through the court system that way?
Not exactly,
okay.
But it is, they do have like attorneys that work within their multidisciplinary team. Okay. But it is a center that helps facilitate the process of like investigation for child abuse.
Okay.
And for...
So like DCFS kind of stuff.
DCFS will come into the building, but they can have like interviews there, forensic interviews. A lot of it's for victims of sexual abuse and... there's some that come in that are children in a home of domestic violence. And so that's when I really got introduced to the criminal justice system of all of this. And then the supporting victims. And I was more like a case manager at that point. But yeah, that was one of the things that kind of pushed me into the field of become a social worker because I'm doing half the work anyways. Already it's not. And then I also was really interested in this work due to personal family friends and a family member, my sister, who has experienced a rough start in her life, and I was inspired to make a change.
And she was adopted by your parents.
Yeah.
How old was she when they adopted her?
So I was 14 years old,
okay.
And she was 12. Okay. So she was already a teenager. And she's originally from Guatemala. Okay. And I was the only girl with 3 boys in the family household. And I begged my parents for a sister. And so that's kind of where it's a long story, but she kind of came into our home and we realized she needs more than just like a place to stay. And it turned into an adoption story, and it's been a really beautiful adoption story, and we're best buds. So
that's awesome. You got your sister.
Yes, I have my sister.
So then tell us how that led you, how that led you to exploring the work that you do now.
Yeah.
Like getting into that.
Yeah. So I started out with victim advocacy, and then my official title at first was mental health services coordinator. So I was referring people out to therapists that were qualified, trauma-informed. And then I was like, why am I not just a therapist? Why am I referring people out? And so really through her adoption is when the first time my family was exposed to like social work. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you get interviewed in like a home study. Mm-hmm. And instead of being interviewed, I interviewed the social worker. And so then from there, I kind of was just inspired by social work and specifically working with victims and survivors of abuse. And from there, I currently work at 2 different practices, one in SNS counseling as a general mental health therapist, where I focus on trauma, and then one at Premier Counseling, where I'm a clinician who works with court-involved or justice-involved populations, so court-mandated clients, and then substance use as well. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a really big crossover between that and DV as well.
Substance abuse and DV?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the court-mandated treatment that we do is for domestic violence services. And
so like the people who were the offenders?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I may actually kind of shift that to the people who have used violence.
Okay, that's fine. I understand. I don't know all the language.
You're totally fine. But the reason why I say that is because the people who have used violence, it's normally not their first time being exposed to violence. So I was really worried as this job offer came to me, and they said they wanted to have me work over there with them. And I said, I've really only worked the victim side of this. And I was really worried that my lens that I'd created around social work was very victim based. And when I came into the work, it was very much that these people who, I mean, you've heard the phrase, hurt people, right? And healed people, heal people. And so the hurt people were hurting other people in different senses. And so to be able to heal that I found that actually very rewarding.
Yeah, because you're helping somebody who sometimes doesn't even know any better, because that's how they were raised, and that's all they know how to handle a situation is to scream, to fight, to yell, to whatever it is, and a lot of times in their home there was substance abuse too. So that's because we all look at it from our perspective, but I think that when you can kind of try and see it from a different perspective is where you can really truly understand, because it's okay to be empathetic towards somebody who's been abusive to you, because it's not anywhere anybody really wants to be. And not even to you, but to just kind of look at it like, oh, wow, they were raised in this awful, terrible situation. That's all they know. Yeah. And they're doing it not always necessarily to be like that, but that's all they know.
Yeah. And I think where the intersection comes with, too, is we're both in a space to prevent violence and to stop it and then to heal from it, right? Yeah. And it's part of it is taking accountability, and part of the work is we don't necessarily allow things to be an excuse or to excuse actions, right, but to take responsibility for those and then continue moving forward in healing and correcting the actions to make, because they're no longer a victim of their situation.
Yeah. And the more you know, the better you can do.
Yeah.
And so if you can learn new skills on how to cope with certain situations or scenarios, then you can do better in the future.
Yeah.
And we all have to learn that, though, because no one's perfect. Like, there's still things that I do that I want to correct. Yeah. And I've made a lot of corrections in my life of how I used to handle things to how I handle things now. And so I think that we're all a work in progress. Some just have bigger things to work on than others, but everybody has their own stuff.
Yeah. And we also do a lot of work with people who are survivors of violence and that come in, and sometimes it's court mandated, or sometimes it's DCFS involved families, or people who just need someone who's certified in this treatment. And when we work with them, oftentimes it's because they're in a cycle of violence that, I guess we don't have to get into the cycle, but they're in that cycle and they're really struggling with getting out of it. And part of getting out of violence or a relationship like that truly comes by empowering the individual, giving them resources, but we can't do the work for them. Right. And so that's why we truly have to find ways to empower,
inspire.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have to want to, because it doesn't matter how many amazing tools you have and that you give them. If they just sit there on the counter, that's not doing any good, right? They have to open the toolbox and use the tools. Yeah. So if they're not using those tools, they're only as good as they're willing to use them, right? So that's kind of like why we created Irene, because she's another tool I think that people can use on both sides of that scenario. Like, we were kind of messing around with it the other day, and we put in some messages that were like, oh, this is what I want to send. And it was a truly awful message. And she's like, hey, that's kind of a lot. Let's maybe break it down.
I love that.
This is what it sounds like. This is like your words. I know you're upset or you're angry or you're hurt, and this is how it's coming out, but let's change how it's delivered. You can still get the same message across without being abusive. And she kind of like walked you through how to change your message so it sounded better. So she can teach you how to like reframe. Like, I'm frustrated and this is how I know how to say it. Yeah. And she can teach you how to say it better, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's what we try to teach so often is, hey, what is coming up for you when you say that? What is the problem instead of what is the emotion? Like, let's take out the emotional side of this, and let's really try to make sure that we're responding or reflecting on how a phrase would come across versus the emotion coming across.
Yeah. And sometimes I think when you're really wrapped up in the emotional part of it, because that's how, like, everything that you learned was from an emotional standpoint, like everything that you got as a kid, maybe growing up, was very emotionally charged. And so it's hard to separate that, I think, sometimes for some people, to separate the emotion from how you're like actually feeling. And that's where I think Irene can come in, because she's not emotional. She's very kind, loving, and yeah, right. She's very kind, loving, and caring, but she knows how to kind of, like, in a gentle way, guide you back to, like, so let's say it like this. How does that sound to you? Does that sound like that's going to deliver the message? Because we don't have to be aggressive to deliver a message. And I think, sometimes growing up, again, that's maybe what they learned, is you have to be aggressive to get your point across, but we don't always have to be aggressive. There's always a kinder way to say it.
Always.
Yeah. So you said that you had some statistics that you wanted to share with us. I'd love to hear those, because I want to learn more about the violence that's in the home and how it affects the family and the children and everyone involved. Because like you said earlier, it's not like violence happens once. It's what did you call it?
That it's not their first time being exposed to violence.
Yeah, but you said it's an
atmosphere.
It's an atmosphere. That's the word.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not just one instance that happened that was violent. It's usually an atmosphere of violence in the home.
Yeah. It's so when working, the individuals that we've worked with, and I have seen many people who work in this field or work as clinicians with someone who's experiencing domestic violence. And I think it's so important to get cultural competency or just competency training to work in this field, because there's so many things that are at risk if we do it the wrong way. And so part of the people that we work with are people that are stuck in that cycle. And because they're stuck in that cycle and they think, I can take this on, or I'm strong enough, which women are strong and anybody who experiences violence is strong. But taking on those things will start to impact people in the home and children in the home. So one of the reasons why I have brought up some of these statistics is education is empowerment.
Right.
To learn what is happening, and part of that education is empowerment is they have a full understanding of what is really happening, what may be some of the later effects of continuing in this
down the
cycle.
road. What could it be if I continue down this road of abuse? So
a lot of these, I just quoting my sources, the Office of Women's Health, but so I'll just kind of spitball and we can maybe talk about some of them. But 1 in 6 children have witnessed seeing a parent or an important adult in their home being physically assaulted in their home. So the first thing that statistic tells me is this is not, unfortunately, a lonely pathway.
It's not rare.
Yeah, it is not a rare thing. And 1 in 6, I mean, here in Utah, every other household has 6 children.
Right?
And so 1 in 6 children experiencing that's a lot of kiddos.
Yeah.
And so if this has happened to you, there's no place to blame.
Right.
We're not putting blame on the survivor for having this happen in the home. Right. And later on I prepared some things that we'll talk about resilience and what that can look like within the home. But yeah, that's another one is boys who see their mother abused are 10 times more likely to abuse their female partners as adults. Wow. Like we kind of mentioned earlier, people who have used violence, it's normally not their first time being exposed to it.
Right.
And so that's part of the cycle of violence that when exposed, sometimes they don't know any better. This is what I saw.
This is what was modeled to me growing up by my parents. Because, like, I don't think we realize sometimes, now that I'm a parent and I have adult children, I realize, like, my experiences from my child shaped so much about my adult life, even though it was, like, the first 18 years of my life and I've lived outside my home for 40 years. It's still, like, it still impacts my life because those are the formative years that we're just soaking so much in.
Yeah.
But we can always change.
Yes.
It's not that forever. There's things we can always change, which I think is beautiful to always remember. Like, yes, I mean, again, like we were talking about earlier, it's not an excuse for you to act that way, but it helps us understand maybe why you made those decisions. Let's do better now.
Yeah. And I can't remember the exact statistic on this, but so have you heard of the ACE study?
No.
An adverse childhood experience study?
No.
It was done by Kaiser Permanente out in California. And it's a series of like 10 questions of a questionnaire that it's either yes or no, but it's essentially asking different forms of adverse childhood experiences. And it was, if you answered yes to 4 or more of the questions, you are, I think I wrote this down somewhere actually. I can't remember. Oh, a score of 4 or higher were very heavily linked to rates of smoking, alcoholism, and drug use as well. So within those 4 or the 10 questions, many of them surround domestic violence as well. So within that same study, they have found, though, that if a child had, or studies that followed after that, but around the ACE studies, that if a child has at least one supportive adult in their life, that those, if you even have a ACE score of 4 or higher, your resilience is, you have like an 80% chance or better to
combat that statistic.
Yes.
There you go.
And I think it's huge that
yes,
if that supportive parent is the mom in the home or the dad in the home, that the person that is also experiencing violence, if they can somehow be the support as well, if they're not able to leave the cycle, then that is one huge part of it, is if you can also be the supportive adult. Yeah,
and that's why it's so important to never give up on yourself too, I think. Because sometimes when you're just in your darkest days in abuse, it feels so heavy, and leaving feels impossible, and like living on your own might feel impossible. Like there's just so many things that feel so heavy for you. I think it's so important to remember that nothing is final, and you can always make a change, and there's a lot of resources out there for people to get out of those situations. But being that supportive parent gets easier sometimes when you do leave. I'm not advocating for divorce, obviously,
right,
but I'm advocating for taking care of yourself and your children as best you can. And if you're with a partner that doesn't want to change, then that might be the best solution, is to get out of that situation.
Right. And I think that's an easy thing for outsiders to see.
Yes.
Right? It's so easy to say,
it's so hard.
You need to get out.
Like, anybody, though, can just sit there and think. Like, just think in your head that you have to leave somebody who has a history of abusing you physically, right? Think about how scary that must be when you're in that situation, to know that even just leaving could escalate that violence towards you. If they find you, if they know where you went, because it's sometimes it's about so much control that they just can't fathom you leaving them. So like, nothing's off the table. So it is very scary. And I think it's important for people to remember, like, how very extremely truly difficult it is to leave that situation, and how scary it is. Well, I didn't even have kids when I was in mine, and when I left, I was scared. I ran away and hid because I was afraid of what would happen to my family if I went home. So I didn't even go home because there were still little kids at my parents' house, and so I didn't even go home. I went and stayed somewhere else. Yeah. Because I was scared. Yeah. But I knew that person would protect me, and so I stayed there. But I was scared for like 2 weeks. Of course.
And rightfully so, I would assume. And statistically, the first year after leaving an abusive relationship is the most dangerous. That's statistics. Yeah. Like, and it's so to be someone that sees that from the outside, like, obviously I can saying, this is such a bad relationship for you, why don't you just leave? That's why. And it's way more complex. We attended a conference yesterday, and they talked about how DV is a complex issue. Yeah. It's not simple. It's a complex issue.
No black and white.
No. And we have to start to step away from that viewpoint from that opinion that it's easy. Why don't you just leave? And if we want to create space that victims are able to leave a situation, we also need to create spaces on how that can become safer, how we can empower that, what resources are they lacking to be able to leave. If it's financial, if it's childcare, if it's how am I going to support these kids by myself, if it's
especially if you've been a stay-at-home mother for who knows how many years, right?
Yeah.
And now you're facing going back to work, taking care of your kids, and making sure everybody's safe. Like that's a big burden.
Yeah.
But it's possible. It's possible. And there are some amazing resources out there for women to that men and women have access to be able to leave those situations. Because I think a lot of times when we talk about this, people think of women, but we know some men that have been in abusive relationships, and it's just as bad for them. They deal with it, I think, a little bit differently than women do. Like, we're more like in our head about it maybe, and men are more like maybe sometimes even in denial. But it's harder, I think, for men to talk about it because culturally it's like man up and deal with it, which I think is not good.
Right. Well, I'm throwing so many statistics out there. I've had these just floating in my brain
Go
my
ahead.
whole career. So I'm sorry if I've saying
I like
lots of
statistics,
these.
so give it to us. 'Cause I think it
Education
also
is
helps.
empowerment.
Yes, yeah, it definitely is.
I mean, I explained how I first started to build my lens in the child abuse realm, and Prevent Child Abuse Utah is a really good resource for those who are in Utah. But they involved people and have these panels of people of men who experienced child abuse as a child, and they have learned, and there was a study done that it takes 20 years for men to come forward about abuse. And so it isn't just women.
Yeah.
And is the statistics skewed towards women who are yes.
Right.
Not and because women are more often for sure. But if we can remove that stigma as well, that these people who have used violence to be able to come forward about these issues that they've experienced and create a space that is comfortable to be vulnerable in, that's prevention as well.
Yeah.
Learning how to make space for that.
Yeah. Or even men who married somebody who was a narcissist, because there's narcissistic women just like there's narcissistic men. I just feel like we hear more about it on the other side, like women being abused, because men are usually bigger and stronger than women. Like genetically, that's just how we were made. But I also think we want to always make sure that men know that what we have, like this Irene app that we created, and the healing that we encourage, and the all the podcasts that we do to like give stories of inspiration, that applies to everybody. It doesn't just apply to women. Like, I know that we're women running this, but we know the statistics for men, and we're working on creating space for men to be able to have access to things that make them feel supported, and like they have a place where they can talk about what has happened to them and heal from that as well. Just because I think I almost feel like there's more resources and like support groups for women out there than there are for men. And we want to kind of change that, because we want men to have more access to these things. Because I think if we can make it less taboo and open up a way for men to talk to each other about what has happened to them, so that they can heal as well, and they can grow, and they can find that person that lights their fire, that's like meant for them, and they're, that truly loves them, and they truly love, and they're healed, and they're in this place where they're ready to like be loved again. Just like women, like I think that it's so important. I think that we need to, like you said, remove that stigma from it, and put it out there and say it's okay, talk about it, because I think that that's where we can truly make the changes, talking about it.
Yeah, and I think too, if even the people who have used violence, like Irene coming in handy to, a lot of times the violence that they've used, I mean, there's different kinds of violence, but sometimes they're unaware that they're causing violence.
Yeah. Right?
And different forms of violence. But Irene will help take that and help you recognize it.
Yeah.
and say like, hey, and that's even like can be an aha moment, like,
Yeah.
I'm capable of doing this, or how did this part of me start to exist?
Yeah. How did I
What
get
do
here?
And so when we empower survivors, we also create a space for those who have used violence to end that kind of cycle as well.
Because they could be made aware. Because like we've talked about, maybe they don't realize how bad it is. Maybe they don't realize really what they're doing to their partner. Because I don't know. There's a part of me that believes that there's good in everybody, and I can't imagine somebody would go into a relationship, invest so much time, effort, and energy just to be abusive, just to have control, just to...
Right.
Maybe there are people out there like that, but I feel like there's good in everybody, and if they truly want to change, that's why we have Irene. Because from the comfort of your own home, totally anonymously, you can find out what's happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
You can pull it up on your phone, on your computer, whatever, and just type in things that are going on, and she can help you identify maybe some of that abuse that's been happening to you, that you're like, I feel crazy, what's going on?
Right.
You know, I thought they loved me, I thought this was this, I thought this was, you know, like, I thought this was love. I thought that we had this relationship based on love and that we cared for each other, but I'm not feeling that, and I don't know what I'm feeling. I just know it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. And in that conference, there was something that was so awesome that, and I may misquote it a little bit. That's why I was looking at my iPad to see if I could pull up that. But essentially, when people feel crazy or they're experiencing violence or abuse in the home, and they start to have the effects of it, less emotional regulation, the inability to communicate with other people, coming out within other relationships, that if we can look at and destigmatize, like, I mean, so often I think we tell kids, oh, if you're being bullied, like they're probably don't have a great home.
Yeah.
Right? And we start to find reasonings for why people are acting the way that we do. When we find that reason for why a victim may be acting the way they do, if we say, well, this violence is causing this victim or survivor to act this way, that also tells us the person who has been using violence why they're using it the way that they are. Mm-hmm. When we start to look at the difference between tactics and dynamics, that yelling is creating intimidation. The tactic is yelling, and the dynamic that is creating is intimidation, right, or whatever other tactic or dynamic that they're trying. So when we start to look at that, why do they need to be intimidating? What have they experienced that has created fear in them?
Yeah.
Thus creating fear in other family members.
Yeah.
And so when we look at it that way, we can also inform how to create a space for that vulnerability to come to light.
Yeah. Because education is empowerment, but also, like, say this person is like, okay, they were yelled at and intimidated as a child, and now they grew up and they're doing that because that's what they know. This is what a parent does to a child. That's all they know because that's what was modeled to them. Mm-hmm. So now we need to teach them, look, just because this happened, that
accountability is a huge part of it.
Yeah, and that relationship is going to suffer if this continues, because did you like being treated like that? No, but that's all you knew, so that's what you're doing. Not because you're trying to be that same person, but because that's all you know sometimes. And again, I'm not giving anybody a free pass.
No.
It's knowledge, it's understanding of why someone does what they do. And I think once we understand why, it's easier for us to help them address it and to get better.
Yeah. And coming back to the survivor side of it, why someone may stay within a relationship, I think we can find the answers of that's all they knew growing up as well. Seeing their family members being victimized within the home, and that's my role. Yeah. That's how you create a loving household, is you don't stand up for yourself, or you don't
just go along to try and keep the peace.
Yeah. And so when we look at it that way too, we're able to see that whatever has informed a a victim as well may create their future victimization if they were victimized in the earlier on too.
Yeah. And sometimes too, like, you grew up in a beautiful, healthy home and you don't know what any of this looks like. And then you go into a relationship and at first it's like, oh my gosh, he loves me. He's so good to me. He's this, he's that. And then all of a sudden you're like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
How did I get here? This isn't okay. Like, for me, it took physical violence before I realized that it wasn't okay. There was a lot of emotional and psychological abuse that I just, like, thought that I was trying to have to figure out how to navigate, and that's just how it was. I wasn't raised in a home like that, but for whatever reason in my brain, I was like, maybe it's the fix it, like, I can fix this kind of part of my brain because I'm such a, like, problem solver, like, by nature. Maybe it's that. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that it got to a point where I was like, I'm not happy and this isn't okay. I shouldn't be treated like this. But for me, the bottom line was when he physically put his hands on me and threw me on the ground, and I was like, I snapped out of it. And I was fortunate enough not to have children and I could make a clean break, but it was still hard and scary. It was so hard and scary.
Yeah.
But, and there's this psychology, and we kind of talked about it with Dr. Baum, but there's this connection that's made using good feelings, but actually in a manipulative way. So they're manipulating your feelings because you get those feel goods every once in a while. They give you those little feel goods so that you stay attached. And so that's what people don't understand about your brain when you stay in those like, why did you say? Why'd you say? Because in my head, I got enough breadcrumbs.
That's the cycle.
The breadcrumbing. Like, I got enough breadcrumbs to stay.
Yeah.
Because I got enough of those little good feeling hits. Like, it would be really bad, but then he would make it better. You know, he would give me flowers, or he would say he was sorry, but the actions never changed. It was all just words and that. But it strings you along, and you don't understand it all the time. Especially, I was 19 when I got married, so I was a baby still. And, like, according to me, I guess. But, like, for me, I feel like I was raised in a home with a very loving mother and father, and it wasn't perfect, and they were very strict. And so, like, I kind of pulled away because I wanted to have freedom. But then when I got in this relationship, like, it was love bombing for sure at first, and it just made me feel good. Not that I was lacking love from a father, so I wasn't, like, looking for that. You know, I didn't have daddy issues like that, but for whatever reason, I just thought, like, oh, well, he loves me because he's doing all these wonderful, nice things for me and buying me flowers. And, you know, I just kind of went with it. And my mom's like, don't get married. And I was like, I'm getting married. And I'm grateful for that experience. It sucked. It was terrible. And I wish that, like, I could have learned another way. But the huge lessons that I've learned from it have made me so strong and resilient in my life. So by the time I was 21, I had been married and divorced. And my mom helped me by saying, you need to forgive him. And I was like, why do I need to forgive him? He's not worthy of forgiveness. And she said, no, you need to forgive him for you. If you're mad at him, he's never going to know because you're not going to see him again. You're going to hold on to this anger and resentment, and it's just going to eat you alive. You have to forgive him. And the day that I forgave him, my life changed. I saw things in a different way. And I just recently read a quote, or read something that said that when you don't forgive somebody, you're telling God you don't trust him to take care of it. When you forgive them, you're giving it to God and letting him handle it the way that it needs to be handled. And I believe in God, and I know he's got my back in everything I do. And so when I was able to forgive and I could free my heart from that, I actually feel bad for him now. I feel bad for the things that he's done in his life that he feels like he needs to continue doing to be this person. And yes, he hurt me, but I'm good. I've come so far in my life, and I look at, like, even the work I'm doing now, I could never have done if I didn't have that experience. So I'm not saying that, like, yes, I got abused, but I'm saying I was abused, but I used that to catapult me into the life that I've always dreamed of. And I've been married for almost 26 years, and I have 3 beautiful children. And all of that is because of the experiences in my life. And so, yes, I have empathy for people who are abusive because I know they're hurting in some way and they just don't know better. Most of them. I think there's some people that could be really awful people because they choose to be, but I think most people just need to learn how to do better.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a tangent.
No, that was amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
But to me, it's just like we can take anything that happens in our life and we can use it as a crutch, or we can use it as a springboard into the next version of ourselves. And I like to jump high, so mine's just a springboard every time. And I think it's good to like shift your perspective into, instead of like I'm the victim, into like this happened to me, but I'm going to use it to better myself and to take me further. And I'm going to bring some people along with me that also need to be in that next level, because I truly I just told my partner this recently. My passion from this point for the rest of my life is to empower men and women to feel that, yes, this happened to me, but I'm going to not let it be in vain. I'm going to let it be something that betters my life, gives me this perspective. I'm going to forgive, I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to make the best life that I can for myself and my children, or myself, or whatever your situation is. And I'm just going to let it be something that helped me get to a better state. I guess is what I'm trying to say. No, I just want everybody to just feel the way that I feel.
Yeah, I love that, because that in the forgiveness aspect, I often interchange the word forgiveness and acceptance. Mm-hmm. That when we come to this state where maybe your mom is saying you need to forgive him, we have to like accept that that was our reality. Mm-hmm. If whenever we're fighting that, like not forgiving, saying you have to say sorry for this, I have to have reconciliation for this, or essentially we're kind of saying like make me feel better.
Yeah. I'm letting you decide when I get to heal instead of me deciding when I get to heal.
Uh-huh. And we lose power when we do that. Mm-hmm. And so when we come to that field of, or that space of acceptance and forgiveness, saying, I am choosing to not let you have any more power over me. I am going to take this moment, and from here on, and forgiveness and acceptance does not mean we're accepting that bad things are okay.
Right.
It is, I'm accepting that it happened, and I am allowing it to be real. And because it is real, I can now say that the difficulties that I'm having are difficult. Yeah. Instead of trying to pretend that you can continue throughout life without any help. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's part of that forgiveness and acceptance, is to be able to say, that sucked. Yeah. That was the worst thing ever that has happened to me. And because it was, I now can open and say, this is what happened. I can find a resolution, because now I have a problem that I can attach to it. Yeah. And so I love that you were able to find that for you, and the beautiful life that you've now have. That's amazing.
And it's because I didn't sit and be a victim. And I'm saying that not in any derogatory way to somebody who's struggling. I say that in a way that people understand, like, you get to choose what happens next. Mm-hmm. You get to choose your next. And it didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't easy, and there was a lot of tears shed, and I was really hurt, and I was really sad, and there was a lot going on at that time. But what I'm saying is, whatever it takes, get to that point, because that's when the true healing happens, is once you can just like let that be what happened. Yeah. Accept that it happened to you. And for me, it's God. For other people, it might be something different, but for me, it's let God handle whatever, work that out however he needs to. I don't need to worry about that. I want to just focus on me and getting better. Mm-hmm. And when I met my husband, I said, hey, you're cool and all, but I don't want to date anybody right now, because I'm working on me. Because at that point in my life, I was like, I'm done dating. I'm going to love myself, and I'm going to get myself to the point that no matter what happens in my life, I'm good. And then that will put me in a place where when the person who's meant to be with me comes along, it'll just feel right. Yeah. And then on our first date, I knew I was going to marry him. So
I guess I have a question for you then. Yeah. Like, to be able to get to that point, what built resilience? Like, what was it that empowered you to be able to make that decision? And what would you say to people who maybe haven't hit that point yet? How do you get to that point of resilience?
I was fortunate to have support around me. Like, my parents were very supportive. It was interesting because looking back, I don't know that my mom actually said, I don't want you to marry him, but I know that she said it to her friend, and her friend's like, well, she's gonna anyway, so you might as well support it. But when everything was falling apart and I had come back home, he had gotten arrested and I had come back home because now I felt like, okay, it's safe for me to be here because he's in jail. I sat down with my parents and they didn't say, so you need to get a divorce, and they said, so now what? What's your plan now? And they made me say it from my own voice. They made me make the decisions. They made me say it. Because when I say it, now it's my decision. If they tell me what to do, I can blame them for whatever happens in the future, right? So they said, what are you going to do? And that's one of the best parenting hacks I got from them is I've let my children decide consequences to things sometimes. And so they said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. He put his hands on me. No, not okay. My dad took me that night to his friend's house, who was an attorney, and we drew up divorce papers that night. And the next day he served him in jail. And that was hard because of course I'm a very empathetic person. So I have this side of me that felt bad for him because I was leaving him and he had said like, I'll kill myself and all these other things to me. Yeah. And I struggled a little bit, like, did I make the right decision? Because you do that because it's a big decision to make when you leave somebody who's abusive. It's bigger than just leaving a regular relationship because regular relationships, okay, whatever, you're done. But abuse is way heavier. And so for me, it was having the support and love of my parents, but also using my voice to make those decisions and then standing on those decisions. Because I had decided to get divorced. That's it. That's what I'm doing. And then now I need to do things. I need to get a job. I need to work really hard because I wasn't allowed to have a job when I was married either because, something could happen at work. So I just had to start doing things to get back on track to the life that I really wanted to live. And then I just focused on big goals that I had set for myself. And every time I reached a goal, I just felt better and better about myself.
So essentially what the gift your parents gave back to you is your power, empowerment. They gave you that space. And I love that you had that support system. I think that's part is huge. And if we could model systems like this for other people who have experienced violence to feel empowered, find your local shelter, find your local resources and advocates, and police departments have advocates as well. And what happens, like when a incident happens, what are the following things that you can do? Like when I'm giving that power back for you to make that decision. And instead of your parents making that decision for you, like you said, it became my decision. So then you get to take accountability, not for just the hard that you went through, and also not only the hard thing that your ex maybe even went through, but you also get to take accountability now for the after effects of it, of the life you've now built, and you get to take complete responsibility for making sure that you've created a safe space for your children. And I don't know if you know anything of your ex since then, but maybe we would hope maybe he's corrected some wrongs in his life. Who knows?
Maybe.
But
I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
But I do know that I have prayed that he gets better.
Yeah.
Which I never thought I would do when I left. But when you do things that feel, I don't know, when you've been abused, it feels counterproductive to pray for somebody. But for me, it made me feel like I can have grace and mercy for him. Whether or not he's sorry, that doesn't matter. I want to be the bigger person, and I want to show people, not just him, but everybody, that no matter what has happened, I can have empathy and compassion for you. And it's okay. And that doesn't make what you did to me okay, but it makes me feel better that I could get to the place where I could wish well for somebody who hurt me so deeply. because I feel like that I'm growing if I do that. And my whole goal, my whole life has always been to get better. Every single day I want to be better. Like I have a t-shirt I wear to the gym that says me versus me, because I'm not there competing against anybody else but myself. Like everything I do is to make me a better person, so that I'm a better mother, so that I'm a better wife, so that I'm a better sister, so that I'm a better friend. Like everything I do, I just want to be a better person, because I want to show up big for all the people in my life that I love.
I love that. And you have, obviously. You're in this space that I think the way that you're talking about your family and talking about your partner and talking about your kids and the way you've come into this space, you've been able to cultivate all of this through your own decision, through your own power. And I love that you've incorporated a lot of the spirituality aspect into that, and that's part of a support system. Yeah. Whether absolutely. Whatever
probably bigger than my parents, honestly. It just feels, I feel carried through some of the hardest times in my life because of that.
Yeah. I have my own spirituality that I rely on as well, and I would say that's a huge part of my ability to accept hard things in life because of that acceptance and being able to move forward from it. But I mean, if that's also a huge part that can help guide forward. Yeah. These resources are available, and oftentimes people don't have their family members, right, that are supportive of this, or because a lot of the time one of the tactics used is isolation. And if that has happened, there are still ways that we can support and empower to end that cycle of abuse.
Yeah. And I always tell people too, you can be the beginning of that for others too. If you don't have that support system, create it for yourself. Find trusted friends, find people around you that make you feel good about yourself. Find friends that when you talk to them, you leave that conversation feeling like, oh, I can do anything now. Because empowering yourself, because you don't have to rely on others to always empower you. I think that for me, I've learned I need to empower myself. It's my job to empower myself. Yeah, at first I needed a little support there, but once I felt that and knew what it felt like to be empowered, oh, sister, all day long, I'm going to empower myself, because I'm capable of anything now, because I feel like that that's who I am. I could do anything. Yeah. And my husband's taught me how to work on cars here and there. That makes me feel empowered. I mean, honestly. And my dad, my dad was a carpenter. I learned how to work with tools. I love building. I love sewing. I have all these gifts and talents that I have, but all of it has made me feel like I can do anything, and I can figure out how to do anything. And I know that's like physical, but
sure,
it still goes in the bank, the empower bank, like where you get to just rack up all of those things that tell you, look, you're capable. You're so very capable.
And that then plays into self-confidence and self-love, right? Yes. You know you're capable of hard things, that you can do hard things. And even you said it didn't come easy to like come into that, understand like that empowerment of yourself. But the moment you loved yourself in a way that created the pathway for you to create the life that you have now, if you are receiving those messages that you aren't worthy of those things, it can be really easy to start to believe them.
They still creep in. Those seeds of doubt still creep in.
And how do you manage when they do?
I try to think about all the things that I've done that are opposite of what the voice is saying. Because, sometimes it's a little voice that's like, you don't know what you're talking about. What qualifies you? How do you know how to speak on this? And then I go, well, there's this, there's that, there's this, there's that, there's this. And I just make a list in my head. Mm-hmm. And then that shifts it for me, because then I'm giving myself proof that was a lie. So I try to dispel the lie with the list of truths. And I'm honest about it. I'm not perfect, and I don't always get it right, and I don't always speak well to people, but I'm always trying to be better. And I'm always, always, always going to tell myself the truth. So I'm getting better at dispelling the lies that pop into my head. Because doing this work has brought up a lot of stuff for me. You're not qualified. you didn't go to school, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. But then I'm like, no, but I lived a life, and I had to, like, in our house we say thug it out. I had to thug it out and figure it out. And I did. And I did it. I didn't go to therapy, but I did a lot of self-reflection. I read a lot of books that said, you know, when something comes up in a situation and it makes you feel a certain way, it's not like you made me feel that way. It's, why am I feeling like this right now? Why does what somebody just said to me make me feel this way? And I own that feeling for myself, and then I try and say, okay, now how do I make it so that I don't feel that way when that is said to me again?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, once again, that's empowerment. That's self-love because, and honestly, that's trauma-informed approach to ask, why am I feeling this way? Or when we're working with people or when you are helping another survivor, instead of saying, stop doing that action or just leave, we have to ask the question, why, what are you feeling by staying?
Yeah.
What are you feeling by leaving? Why is what they said making you feel this way?
Yeah.
How true is that? We ask why, and then when you as a person can take that ownership of what that feeling is, that's the empowerment piece where you get to take back that power and say, oh, I'm not actually this description of what they're telling me. I'm so much more. I have the capability to be better, or I have the power to make my own decisions and maybe not in the sense yet, but it'll be in the future if I start to make these changes in my life.
Yeah, and once I, again, cracked that code to, I have complete control over how I feel in any situation. And there have been things that have come up totally unexpected. Like something will be going on and something will be said or done, and all of a sudden I get this like really strong feeling, and I'll go, whoa, what was that? And why am I feeling like that? And what is pushing me? I just feel like it's almost like a little nudge. Like, what's nudging me to feel that way? And how can I feel differently the next time I'm in this situation? Because, like, feelings are there for a reason. Like, we're supposed to feel all these feelings.
Yeah.
And so it's just, to me, it's like feedback, and it gives me tools. Like, that's the tool that I use, is like, okay, this is the feedback I'm getting. Now, what do I do so that I can address this, so that I can feel better the next time I'm in this situation, or I hear this phrase, or somebody says something to me, or I see that something's being done, and like, maybe I'm not included. So why do I feel so terrible about being excluded? But I'm not really being excluded. I just wasn't invited. Does that make sense?
Right. Well, and I think coming back to that support system you probably had other people telling you the opposite of what you were being told by your ex, right? Yeah. They're telling you you're loved, you're important, we're here for you. And I think being able, I guess for you, like, as someone that was in that position, for somebody to say those words to you, did that help empower you again? Or how long did it, when you first started hearing those words again, how did they land with you?
Like, what words?
Like hey, we're here for you, or we love you. Like, you said it took a minute to believe it. How did you get to that point?
Well, I've always known that I was loved by my parents. They never shut a door on me, even when things were kind of crazy in my marriage and I wasn't communicating a lot with my family. It was never like, fine, don't come and talk to us ever. That was never on the table. Like, I've always known that my parents loved me. They might not have agreed with my decisions, and they might not have loved my choices, but they loved me, and I knew that they always loved me, and I knew that I was always welcome back home if I ever needed anything. And they were a huge support to me. And I had to just relearn myself that I was worthy of that love. I always had it, and I knew I always had it, but I didn't always feel worthy of it because of choices I had made. I thought that certain choices made me unworthy. And I know now that that your worth never changes. Your worth is always great.
Always.
Always. No matter the situation, no matter how much somebody hits on you, no matter how much somebody yells at you, no matter what is going on, that does not change your worth. Your worth will never, ever change. And everybody has that worth. Every single person has that worth. So remembering that you have that worth, I think, is the biggest thing. And then getting to the point where you can accept that worth. Because I think sometimes when you feel unworthy, you can't accept the fact that you have worth. You just feel unworthy, so you just think that that's just what it is. But once you can accept that you do have that worth, then that everything can change then too.
I think that second part is huge. Accepting that you have worth is that next step to empowerment. I'm going to say that word probably a million times today.
That's okay. I like that word.
And I think a lot of times what we see people in these experiences, and many of these people have probably burned relationships because of staying in a relationship that somebody might not approve of. Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy you had people that were there to support you. Yeah. But I think one of the parts for people who have had like burned relationships or a minimal support system is starting at self-love again and knowing that you have worth. Yeah. That starts within you. Yeah. Is it easier to do that with a support system? Yeah. But you can also access that again for yourself. You can access that without other people around you through your own self-reflection and finding that self-worth again. And when you accept that, you start to act accordingly and understand that what this person is telling me may not be true. Probably isn't. And it isn't.
It's not. Let's just not say probably. It's just not true, because your worth. And that's one thing that I just say over and over to my kids. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. I will always love you. There's nothing you could ever do that would make me not love you. I might not like all your choices, but I will always love you. Yeah. And then I think I take that a step further in my own mind, and I think about God. And I think, I know how much I'm loved by God. And if he can love me through everything the way that he does, and he loves all of his children here on earth, and if he can love us all that way, that's only, like, I can't imagine, because I know how much I love my children, and I can't imagine how much he must love us. Mm-hmm. And we're all worthy to him too. And if you have nowhere else to go, pray. If you don't know how to pray, Google it. Google can help you learn how to pray. Mm-hmm. But just find something greater than yourself to rely on for support sometimes. And God is always there. And, like, I know not everybody believes in God, but I cannot deny that God exists, because I honestly don't know if I would be where I am today without God.
I love that you've opened up about that part of your life, and you've been able to find that self-worth within it. And people who also believe in God, I think that's a great place to start, right? And finding that self-worth is innate no matter what, because you exist, you deserve to have a place in this world. And no matter what your beliefs are, or what part of the world you're in, you deserve a place in this world. You not only deserve a place in this world, you also deserve to be happy. Yes. You deserve to feel fulfilled. You deserve to be treated with kindness. You deserve to be respected. So once we start to believe that we deserve to be here and we're worth life, we deserve to be kind or treated with kindness. We deserve respect. We deserve abundance. We deserve whatever you start to believe in, you start to act upon.
It's funny that you just said abundance, because the first thing I thought of when you started saying that is sometimes we think that we have to settle with something because there's just no one else out there for us, but there's an abundance of people available in this world that you don't have to put up with anything. You don't have to put up with anything. You get to choose what's okay and what's not okay. And look, my relationship with my husband hasn't been perfect from day one, but we've loved each other very strongly, and we've worked really hard. When things got tough, we talked about it. We worked through it. We haven't always said kind things to each other because that's just life. Not every angry word is abuse. Sometimes it's just a disagreement. And
well, there's a difference between relationship conflict and abuse. Right. You can have healthy conflict in a relationship, for sure.
And you could even yell at each other and it's not abuse. Just get that the voices get a little elevated while you're discussing something you're both very passionate about. But the key is to give each other that grace and work really hard through it. Because if you're with a partner that's willing to work with you through the hardest times, that's where you can really grow. And that's how, the love for your partner just grows even more every time that you overcome the next obstacle or hurdle in your relationship. Because relationships can be hard. Even the best, greatest relationships can still be hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think giving each other grace and loving each other from where you're at and working together to just be better together. I mean, I've been married to my husband now for almost 26 years, and our youngest child is moving to California tomorrow.
Oh my goodness.
And it's a little sad to not have my kids in my home anymore. I mean, I still have my daughter. She'll be there until she decides to get married, I think, which I'm fine with.
Yes.
But it's kind of getting to the point where now it's back to just me and my husband again. But we have all this life experience in raising children together, and our growth together through all of those times. And we're so excited about this next chapter in our life because now it's me and him, and we get to just go have fun and do great things. And it's exciting.
Yeah.
And so no matter what state you're in your life, just know that there's a way for you to better your situation. It's never final. It's never over. And even though it feels really heavy and hard, try to find support around you. Try to find resources around you. Get the help that you need so that you can make your life everything that you want it to be. And I want to thank you so much, Kenzie, for being here. It's been so lovely talking to you. We might have you back again because I know there's a lot more that we have to talk about. But thank you for tuning in, and God bless.